Hello, man. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, or whatever is the time where you are right now. A couple of years ago, I was living in the Caribbean. I went there not as a traveling experience, but more because the situation where I used to live was just not good at all. I used to live before in Venezuela, and there was a period where the dictatorship plus the current situation of the country was just too much for basically every person there. So I immigrated with the goal of just improving my overall life situation, or basically with the goal of just having enough to eat. But I'm not going to lie, one of the motivators for moving out specifically to the Caribbean was because I want to see improvements in my dating life. Even if I was coming from a traditional background, and one of my values was that I wanted to have sex either after marriage or with a girl that I knew that I was going to marry. After having a couple of experiences over the years, these value I basically just kind of forgot it. And I was more open to, let's say, casual relationships or whatever just felt good in the moment. Being there in the Caribbean as I was working in restaurants, I took that as an opportunity to improve my social skills as I had to deal with a lot of people and especially women. I was acting always like very flirty and charming and telling jokes. And I remember how one of the cashiers that I used to work with, she used to like always look me at the eyes and kind of smile all the time. And that was all because in the first few days when she reached, I remember that she was bitter, internal with other people, like not talking and giving that kind of bitchy look most of the time. So I kind of just started to speak with her. We become friends. I used to live close to the restaurant, so one day she come and visit me, and we kind of know that there's that tension in the air, right? We kind of know that we like each other, so we start kissing, making out a little bit, and as I knew that things could scale to sex eventually, I thought in my mind started to appear, telling me that you don't actually love this girl. You know that, right? Is it okay if you continue it? I was generally doubtful because it was like the first time that I was in that setup where I was going to have sex with a girl that I wasn't even in a relationship with and where things kind of move on pretty quick. And as this girl was super hot with the body of a model and with those reasons in front, I decided to move on because I thought that it was worth it. And today I want to share with you the lessons I have learned from having that experience. My name is Jesus Noya. I'm a Venezuelan sex coach with the goal of helping men to last longer in bed, become sexually dominant, and be more attractive. All this while avoiding the deadly mistakes that I made through my sex life. This comes from my years of dating experience in South America and all the struggles that I had to go through, like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and non-existent sexual confidence. With this video, I want to offer you some insights about casual sex. If you're thinking just to have it, or if you're already been practicing it and you're wondering if it's right or not, or maybe even if you think that it's absolutely gross, I think that what we're going to talk about today is going to be very helpful. And just very quick, if you're experiencing things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and you want to accelerate the process for you to become a sex god and be the man of your life, you can go and click the link in the description right now. And that way we can work together on making that reality for you as soon as possible. But now let's jump to the video. Continuing with the story, I decided to keep going up with the situation with this girl, right? We started to have sex from time to time, see each other, we met each other at work and kind of flirted all the time. We didn't have like a name for it, and the couple of times that she asked me like where was this going or which one was going to be the result of it or what I was planning for the future, I always told her something like, let's just live right now in the moment and then we will see, or like let's just experience whatever is happening right now, and depending of what happens in the next few weeks or months we can just see which one is the result. That was kind of my approach to it, because I also explained here since the beginning when we started to have sex that this is not something serious because I'm in love with an ex-girl. And even if that sounds super horrible, that's how I did the things. I didn't want to lie to the girl. And she actually agreed on that with words. And something that I want to emphasize from those experiences is that they were super fun. I actually had such a great time with all the things that I did with her. Sex, dating, going out, the conversations, the time that we spent together. I actually had a lot of joy and good feelings with the things that I lived there. I was having sex and spending such a great time with a girl that had the body of a model without having to put that much commitment or going through the stress that normal relationships usually have. And that was giving me like the mental bandwidth to keep going on with the things that I wanted to do in life. So in that moment, seeing all these benefits, it seemed very worth it to have casual sex. However, that was only a small part of it. The first chapter of having casual sex for me was realizing that it is true, it's absolutely fun and there's a lot of joy in these things. But with the second chapter, I realized that all your actions have consequences. even if you want to deny it. There's a lot of people and even movements talking out there about how you don't have to feel any kind of guilt or responsibility or accountability for the things that you do, right? That some things are just about pleasure or doing whatever feels right for you, or that you shouldn't care that much about what you do in life because you're gonna die one day, and stuff like that, right? However, the reality is other, especially when it comes to relationships. You know that every small thing that you do with the next person, it has actually a consequence, an effect in real life. And if there's an act that has a lot of relevance and importance and weight when it comes to a relationship, that is sex. After having sex a couple of times with this girl, even if I didn't like fell in love with her or wanted a relationship with her, I started to care about her person and the things that she was doing or how she was spending her day or the people that she was going out with. Even if this wasn't a good idea at all because things weren't that serious. And as soon as she realized this, she started to play games with it, right? Because I was the one that didn't want a relationship in the beginning. I was like the bad guy or the fuck boy that was in love with the next girl and then was using her just as a recreation. She used to say this from time to time, like laughing, and I was taking it as a joke. But in the moment that I kind of started to care about her a little bit more, she brought up this again, and as I was that guy, she kind of used that as a way to make a playful revenge. And it was playful for her, but for me, not at all. She was texting her exes and going out with her friends that without any surprise I ended up realizing after a while that those were guys that basically wanted to have sex with her, right? And we can say that I didn't have any right to say anything about that. Okay, the thing is that I was still feeling bad. I was still feeling that anxiety and like I was getting full, especially because she was lying to me saying that those were only friends or that she didn't knew that they had those intentions, that kind of thing, right? I was feeling like she was like strictly lying, and that's something that it always upsets me up in relationships, lies. But the responsibility from all this is me for since the beginning, because I knew that that was going to be the end result if I decided to continue with this situation. And I move on, I decided to keep going even if I was denying in my mind that it wasn't going to be an attachment or that I wasn't going to care that much. I did, because again, sex is something that has relevance in some way. Even if it's someone that you hate and you wish him to be dead. The fact is that when you already have sex with someone, it's like you guys already shared something. That's why there's like a saying in Venezuela where a man, for example, they when they have sex with a girl, when the girl start to like say, bad things about him, like say that, yeah, he's a jerk, he's an idiot, he did this, he did that. They usually respond with something like, okay, but you already suck my dick. And I know that this is like a joke and it could be like misogynist or whatever, but the point from that is that when you already share intimacy with a person, there's something that already happened there that you can after just delete or totally erase from your history. Having to deal with all this besides the experiences with the girl and the anxiety that I was going through, it also ended up like decreasing the image that I have of myself, because when I saw this girl losing respect for me and she stopped seeing me as this, like handsome and charming guy that she wanted to have sex with all the time, and more like this guy that she could play games with and usually have fun, it only made me feel bad. Because, I could say like, okay, she can do whatever she wants, whatever. But the facts are that I was allowing her to do that. And that wasn't helping me at all with my perception of myself. Again, instead of seeing myself this guy that was like charming and attractive, I was just seeing myself as a dork that would be affected for whatever a woman would do to him. And that's not a good self-image to have. And speaking about actions having consequences, if there's one thing that made me realize this, like internalize this second chapter, was a pregnancy scare that I had with that girl. She said at the beginning that it was totally okay, it wasn't possible for her to get pregnant or whatsoever, but I still felt worried for it. And when she saw this, in the same way that she was playing these mental games with me, this was like the big catalyzer. In the moment that she was able to control me totally, was with the possibility that we could have a baby together, because I wanted my first baby to be like a special occasion with a woman that I deeply love and that I had a relationship with, that I was going to marry, like form a family. Not an accident with a girl that was something casual. And this was a moment when my whole spirit was broken down, right? I felt that like life was over for me when she started to play like she was pregnant, but then she wasn't. Like I was so scared in general that that could be a possibility, because if it was a possibility, if she was going to have a baby, I wanted to take responsibility still, but I need to know that was true in the first place so I couldn't start like organize my life for it, right? Because it is an important thing. It's something very important. But then she was playing like it wasn't true, and to say that if it was mine, she was going to disappear and take out the baby. Like this kind of crazy stuff. And all that happened because of how I treated her, of course, but mainly because of the nature of our relationship. Because I was already having sex with a girl that I didn't take the time to know that much, that I didn't even have like a couple of months of knowing her and giving her, even if it wasn't my intention, with some of my action, like hope for our future relationship. And I knew that I was getting into that situation and I still continue. I knew that it was a possibility to have a baby and I still continue. Because of all these things, I realized now that the trade wasn't worth it at all. Me having casual sex, even if it was a super hot gear and it was enjoyable and it was pleasurable and all that, wasn't worth it all the stress and anxiety and deterioration of my soul that I had to go through eventually. Because even if none of those things would happen, right? Let's say that it was actually with a gear that I didn't develop any feelings for and that we kept everything kind of casual, you know. The image that I had before of me was this guy that was like reserving himself in a purposeful way to get into a marriage, to start to develop a beautiful relationship and sex life with a woman that I was expecting to love. That was me before that, because the only times that I had sex with was with a girl that I was actually like projecting in mind a future together. But when I get up on that because of things like, you know, I was being like too hard on myself. That was like an act of discipline that wasn't necessarily, or whatever bullshit was going through my mind in that moment. Now I am the guy that let himself to fall into that. That was very close to have a child that didn't want to be attached with a girl for the rest of my life, even if I didn't vibe with her at all. I was forced to do all those things. I was the man that shows short-term pleasure and fun instead of a deep, full, and beautiful relationship. And even if I know my mistakes right now and I changed my life and all that, I already did those things. I'm never going to be the man that never engaged in that behavior. That's something I'm not going to be able to erase. Changing that pure perception of yourself for a fat ass, even if you feel a lot of temptation for it and you may think that it's worth it, it is not. To this, you're also gonna have to have the attachment that even if, again, if you say that you're not going to have it, that you're a man that knows how to keep his feeling apart or whatever, there's a big chance that it's going to happen at some moment, right? That's where there are like so many movies and so much people speaking about it, because sex always has consequences. Remember, even if it's just small, that is going to go to your mind in some way. And even if it doesn't happen directly to you, it's going to happen to the next person. That's what I call the emotional corpses or ghosts. Like that people that they get attached to you in some way that you just use them like they're disposable, but they're still there in your life now because you killed them. Even if you don't care about them at all, they're gonna have some effect in your life anyways. And having to deal with all those things is just stupid, basically just dumb, right? Because how long is the pleasure going to last? 5 minutes, 20 minutes? If you click the link in the description, maybe like 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe as long as you want, right? So okay, even if it's that long of pleasure and that astonishing, it's just short term and momentaneous still. The other things are going to last for probably years. If you're someone that has been already having casual sex, you know that what I'm saying is true. You can't deny it. You know that they're attachment, you know they're emotional corpses, you know that they have been situations that you have to deal with. But as you're being guided by your impulses, you keep like trying to convince yourself that it is worth it, you know, or that it is normal. And if you're someone that haven't experienced all those things at all, you may get a lot of FOMO for it. You know, like a fear of missing out from men telling to you how great have been them, like having sex with XYZ gear. Because I did as well. I always have the thought of like, if people was saying that to me, it was for some reason, you know. If probably all these rules that I have for myself weren't actually necessary. But I was absolutely wrong. And the funny part is that there are better pleasures than those things. The main reason of why I was doing that, engaging in casual sex, was because it was going to be fun. Like there was no intention behind that, right? It was going to be fun and pleasurable. Any other reason was just like a form of coping, you know, like releasing stress or improve my testosterone. Those weren't actually the real reasons. The only reason for having casual sex is that straight hedonistic pleasure, nothing else. And if it is pleasure that you want to experience, there's one that is 10, 100, probably 1,000 times better than even like the hottest gear in the world could give you if it is with casual sex. And that is the pleasure, joy, and love that you experience when you connect and have sex with a person that you feel really good feelings for. Even with the pregnancy scare, something that always stick in my mind was that when that pregnancy scare happened with that gear, I was like feeling like dying, right? I thought that my life was over now. That was with that girl. With the previous girl that I had sex before. I was even wishing sometimes, like inside of me, that she would get pregnant, even if it was by accident. And know that may sound kind of crazy, but I knew that I wanted to have children with her in the future. And even if it was happening in that moment, even if I was young, feelings that I had for her were so strong that if I was going to have a baby with her, if I had to marry her and like take this responsibility or like even having to provide and pay for all this stuff, I was going to take that with happiness, with like a genuine sensation of fulfillment in some way because I love her. I genuinely love her. With this girl was totally opposite, and that was why I was so scared. So it is a enormous, like humongous difference, right? Because it is basically the same situation, but what changed was like the link, like the bond that I have with the girl. And with sex is something similar. It's basically the same stuff, like the same acts. But when you do it with someone that you love, the experience is just so different and it's way more pleasurable than this one. Obviously, these ones were hard to like find and develop and takes a lot of effort, but all the better things, like the real good things in the world, they require that effort from your part. A lot of people get really picky about casual sex because they feel like as a way of oppression that they have onto them, that they're like limiting their freedom to do whatever they want to do. And the thing is that they can do it, right? They can do it and go and experience it, but that is not freedom in some way, like hurting yourself and your soul just for short-term pleasure. I think that that is not the definition of freedom. There are better ways to express that, and that's what I'm trying to do. Since I learned all the lessons that I shared with you today, I start to redirect my life towards that purpose of focusing mainly on the love and the spiritual value of our relationship and sex. And even with all the challenges that you have to go through to live like that, I think that the benefits have been just very positive in my life. The life that I'm experiencing right now, the way that I live in and the way that I feel with myself is something that I'm very grateful for. And I know that as soon as I keep like sticking to my values, it's something that is just going to improve. I wish that you can experience the same and you will do it if you give to sex the spiritual value that it has. And also if you aim to form a real bond of love and trust with the woman that you're gonna have sex with. I know it may sound difficult, but it is worth it. Believe me. Again, man, remember that if you're experiencing things like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and if you want to accelerate the process for you to become a sex god, you can go and click the link in the description right now. And that way we can work together on making that reality for you as soon as possible. But besides that, man, I really hope this helps you, and see you later.